Hi.
Welcome to Whatever the Weather, a weather podcast from me, meteorologist Sarah Spivey.
And meteorologist Katie Blake from San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah, we live in San Antonio. We work in San Antonio. And today's episode is going to be a little different. I'm sure it's going to be in the title of, of the episode itself. But today is my wonderful friend, meteorologist Katie Blake's last podcast with us, because Katie is moving on from Ksap to another wonderful job opportunity up in Dallas. So yeah, I know. It's kind of bittersweet because we've been working together for 5 years. And I said I'm already crying.
You better stop. I can't do it. If she's going to cry, I can't do it.
Before this podcast episode, I literally was like, Katie, I'm probably going to cry. I just preparing for you. I don't want to cry, but it's probably okay. So
here's a really great, if folks have been Ksap viewers for the last, how long have we been here? 5 years?
Yes,
more than 5 years?
5 years.
Like, Sarah and I think part of the reason we get along so well is because we're similar in age. We both, we work together, but we're opposites in that she's very emotional, not in a bad way. Like, she's very in touch with her emotions and she wears her heart on her sleeve, and she always has a kind, caring word for people. And that makes me sound really bad because I'm none of those things. No, I'm just a little more reserved. But you have made me want to be more, open with people, especially people that I'm close with, because your heart just shines through. So I really appreciate this. And if I seem lacking of emotion, it's not because
it's just
I just have I didn't cry at my wedding at all. I didn't cry
and
when
I
he
was
proposed.
there. You didn't.
Like, I wasn't even close. I wasn't even like teetering on like eyes welling. I wasn't even close. So it's
okay. I know you care.
I really do care. And everyone's been so kind so far. It's really, at the time of this recording, just my coworkers here at Ksap are in the loop. And everyone's just been so nice and really supportive, and including Sarah. So it's great. So
I don't want to make you uncomfortable. So I will
You're not
suck that tear back into my eye.
You're not making me uncomfortable. But this is a great glimpse into who Sarah is as a coworker and as a friend. And I've been really fortunate. And yeah, I'll just start with what we were going to talk about today, which is
I was going to ask you. First of all, I wanted to say you're leaving. That's really sad. Your phone just fell, but it's fine. We'll get that later.
It's really sad.
But this doesn't mean that the podcast is going to be over. So we're going to continue to have this podcast. I'll probably be at the helm of Whatever the Weather, but we're going to have a ton of different guests and other meteorologists on deck. So it's not the end of the podcast, but it is the end of the awesome Katie Blake era of the podcast.
I'm so glad it's going to keep going. This is I feel like San Antonio doesn't have a ton of local podcasts, especially in terms of weather, and our audience has really loved it, I think, because people are fascinated by weather, and this is just another way to learn some things. So I'm really glad it's going to continue.
Me too.
You do a great job with this.
But I'm going to miss you so much. So I thought for our last episode together, we could do a little Q&A. I'll be the Q, you be the A. Okay, so let's start here with Katie. What's your new job?
So my new job, I'm still going to be a meteorologist first and foremost. It's really exciting. I'm just going to be a meteorologist, not in TV. I'm going to step back from TV for at least a little bit. I never want to close any door completely, but I'm going to be a meteorologist for an electric company up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So I'll be providing some internal forecasts there, but also some public forecasts. There's still going to be kind of a communication and broadcast component to this position that they have. They have the same kind of weather graphics that we have here at Ksap. And so this person in this role produce forecasts for the service territory and keeps people informed. It's a role that's important during weather where people could lose power, like
Absolutely.
winter weather, even severe weather. And then I'll be doing some other things as well, some other communications type things, which is something that I don't have a ton of experience in. I mean, I've learned so much here at Ksat from having to kind of do my own news packages and reports and things like that. But there's a lot to learn there, so I'm excited. So it's something that I'm my love of meteorology. I still continue to practice that, but I'll get to do some new things too. So I'm
Cool.
excited.
That's awesome. Dallas is a cool city. I worked there before working here, so I think you're going to have a lot to do there too.
I know nothing about Dallas Fort Worth, so help me.
Maybe send your little suggestions to Katie of
Help
what she can do in
me.
Dallas. So
Yeah.
I thought we could walk down memory lane here at KSAT and first talk about like what has been the best, most exciting weather memory at KSAT for you, like a weather event or anything like that.
I think it's hard to it's hard to call severe weather like fun and exciting. So I've got like a two-part answer to this question. I
Okay.
promise I'm not going to ramble on for 40 minutes. But one thing I remember, this wasn't on air at KSAP, but it was an overnight thing. We had a front coming through, and it was one of those Arctic fronts. So the change in the air mass was going to be sharp and quick. And I stayed up until like 3:00 in the morning, and I was outside my apartment door. And when that front was coming through, the colder air mass like hit me.
You could feel it.
Yes, I could feel it. And that was one of the only times that I've felt that colder air mass moving in. And it was really cool.
That is awesome.
I loved that. And but I think that was great. And the rest of my memories weather-wise are all things like severe weather.
Yeah.
And Hurricane Harvey and the winter storm. So those are all things that when I think of my time here, I'm going to think of those events because Hurricane Harvey, we were pretty new here. And that was a significant event to have to work and report on. And I remember being a little overwhelmed at times during Hurricane Harvey because
what overwhelmed you?
I think just the trying to communicate with our local audience here in San Antonio about the sharp drop off in the rain totals that people were going to experience. There were the people that got the 20 plus inches of rain and their homes were uninhabitable for months. And, that's where people lost their lives. But then here in our local area, we didn't really get much rain at all. And so it was challenging. That was kind of my first experience with trying to communicate with people in an extreme weather event like that, what they should expect.
Yeah.
Even though the focus was on the places like down closer to the coast in the Houston area that had all this destruction, trying to, say, hey, this is going to happen here. But locally where our audience lives, we're really not going to see that much rain. And I remember thinking that was something that I hadn't really had to deal with yet. And that was a challenge.
Okay.
Just in terms of the local forecast for Harvey and trying to get people to understand what they were going to expect. And then your next question was what was most challenging memory?
Yeah.
I think that, but then above that is the winter storm of 2021 because the whole weather team and our whole newsroom just worked straight through that whole week because it wasn't just that, it was COVID. So it was trying to navigate all of this at one time. So all of us just working nutty hours, living on energy drinks and adrenaline. And that was the first time, like, people were really scared. Our viewers, our audience, our neighbors, people were really scared because they didn't have power and no one seemed to really know what to do. And so that will always stick out in my mind because it was exhausting professionally, but also personally. Each of us were dealing with our own issues at our own homes, like with our own families. And do we have water? No. Well, I guess I'll take a sink bath. I don't know. Like, so that, but that I think brought us as a weather team very, very close, and I learned so much from all of you. And that
Mm.
while that was probably the most challenging, it was the most kind of fulfilling at the end of the day. And I
Yeah.
think when I look back on my time here, that's where I think I learned the most about what it means to be in this profession, but also about meteorology.
Awesome. I feel that a lot for sure. And so when when you've been here at KSAT, you had a couple of like STEM related features. Like one was Blake's Brainiacs, where you got to highlight different STEM curriculum across
Yeah.
the city. And then, of course, you had Kaiti's Science Lab, which you went to schools and did science experiments with the kids. So, in what made that? What did you love about those things?
I really all of that kind of got started because I went to weather camp when I was a little
Yeah.
dorky kid in like 3rd grade. And I have always firmly believed that if I hadn't had the opportunity to go to a camp like that and learn things about what I was interested in and do hands-on activities, I don't know that I probably would have found my way to weather, but I don't know. I just know that that was a big part of a couple of summers of my childhood. And so I always wanted to highlight local programs and activities that gave that same experience to kids. So that's kind of where a lot of that started. And then the science lab, Kaiti's Science Lab, was born during COVID because we were trying to give parents something for their kids to do and
Yeah.
kind of keep them busy. And it evolved from a thing in studio to a thing where we went to schools once it was a little bit better with the COVID situation. But yeah, I think it all kind of it all for me went back to wanting to give kids the same kind of experience that I had, because I feel like what I had when I was young really helped
Yeah,
shape me, and it got me to what a job that I love now. So
that's awesome. That makes a
Yeah.
lot of
it's
sense.
corny.
It's pretty awesome.
This is
though.
all like
So
Just
again,
kidding.
I'm the emotional one.
I'm just kidding.
So something you did that was so fun. Rooftop weather. Just you were on the rooftop of KSAT and having fun with the weather, putting GIFs on this social media centered forecast. So why do you think rooftop weather resonated with so many people? Because people would ask you about it all the time.
At its core, like especially at the like very beginning when I was like doing it on my phone, it was just silly. It was just goofy. I am kind of naturally a goofy person and I like to laugh. So I think we were when it started, we were stuck in this very kind of stagnant weather pattern. And so we were all just kind of like, this, just it's not changing and
Hot.
boring. Yeah. And so I was like, why not present this to people in a different way that maybe makes them laugh just a little bit. And so I think it was just the weather presented in a different way. And, at its peak, we were like having like guest dancers on the roof and stuff like that. So it was silly, but people also got the info they needed. So I think maybe that's why it stuck.
Makes sense. That makes sense.
I'll miss that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Miss it too. Okay, so this is kind of a silly question, but we do spend so much time, you and I, on our appearance, like makeup, clothes.
Ugh.
So, what's your favorite on-air look? What's your favorite fit, girl?
I think my favorite thing is my my pleather pants. I've had a couple of pairs of them in my time here at KSAT, and I, reserve them for the fall and winter, the cooler months. But I love a good pleather pant with a nice blouse, a nice top, and some heels.
Cool.
Once I figured out that worked on air, I was like, oh yeah.
And your makeup's always been on point.
Oh, thanks. It took some time, but
So every now and then Katie and I will be in the makeup room together doing our own makeup, and I'll see like a product that she has and I was like, oh, what is that? Oh, what is that?
it's all cheap
Drugstore stuff.
Yeah.
Me too.
For sure.
Okay, so San Antonio, you've been here for 5 years, and a lot has happened in your life.
Yeah.
In 5 years. I mean, you dated and married your now husband.
Yeah. I mean,
and
if I hadn't come here, we would not be married.
You bought a house.
Full stop.
You bought your first house here.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
But and so I assume you guys will probably come back to San Antonio every
yeah.
now and then
Mhm.
because you love the city. So when you come back, what are the things that you have to do? Like restaurants you have to go to, or things you have to see? Like, what are you going to be excited to come back to in San Antonio?
Well, I think because even since you and I have lived here, it's changed, and I've
Mhm.
seen things evolve and different parts of town really start to flourish. And so I think I'll be really interested to see how things, have changed. But yeah, we have a lot of friends here, and my coworkers have all become my friends. So we're going to come back to, see friends. My dad was like, well, he was like, well, I'm gonna miss that food in San Antonio. I was like, Dad, we're like, we can come back. It was like, also, you on
Yeah.
your own free will can visit San Antonio whenever you want. Um,
But he had
so
a reason to visit, which
yeah,
is you.
yeah, but yeah, I'll be interested to see how things have kind of changed. We do love the botanical garden because that's where my husband and I got married. So always like to stop by there.
Yeah.
We've got a few favorite restaurants. We actually have a list of like everywhere we have to hit before we leave.
Yeah.
But I mean, I love the Mexican food here.
You like the
Full stop.
chispas, don't you?
The chispas, I
The
do.
chispas.
Little
They're
marg,
good.
little marg action. Yeah. So we'll have a full list. And we'll be back a lot. I've never gotten to do things like I've never been to Schlitterbahn in New
You
Braunfels in
haven't?
my life. Not
That's
even just
fun.
these 5 years, but never in my life. I've never gotten to float any of the rivers.
Oh my God. What?
I know.
You've never floated the Guadalupe
Not
or
a
the Canal?
once. My body has
Katie.
never touched an inner tube. Not
Shocking.
once. I'm
So here's
so
the
not
thing.
fun at
When
all.
you come and visit, yeah, I know. When you come and I guess we do work on the weekend, but when you come and visit, we're gonna go
Okay.
on an inner tube.
That's what I need to, and some of the things that I haven't been able to do just with my schedule.
What's another thing I would be shocked to find out that you haven't done in San Antonio? Have you gone to a Spurs game?
Yes.
Okay. Have you been on a river barge? Have you been on a river barge? The river barge with the tour.
Yes.
Okay.
We did that for our wedding parties when we got married. And
It's
was really
fun to do as a local.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Have you been to the Alamo?
Not in a minute, but I have been there.
While you've lived here, have you been to the
Yes.
Alamo? Okay.
Yes.
Have you been to the top of the tower? Have you been to the top of the Tower of Americas?
That's where there's that restaurant.
Yeah, there's
right?
like a bar too. It's really nice. I think that's a no. Have you ever been there?
I think we've like talked about it, but I don't know that we ever went up there. Wait, no, we did a rooftop weather up there, but it was really cloudy, so you couldn't see anything. So it was kind of pointless. But yes, but not for like
Have
fun.
you been to Six Flags Fiesta, Texas?
Yeah, it was hot.
It was. Okay, cool. So we're going to have to come up with a list.
So I'm not a total failure.
When you visit. You're not a failure at all, Katie. Okay, wow. So here's the thing. I know that you're going to be leaving TV, but you're still going to be a meteorologist. Mm-hmm. But what are you looking forward to about that change? Like, what are you looking forward to about your job up there? Mm-hmm. That kind of stuff.
I'm really looking forward to being challenged. I've kind of figured out about myself that I need to be challenged and I need to be a little uncomfortable. That's where I grow and thrive. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really looking forward to that because with this new position, it's, if I were to go to another TV job, yeah, there would be some changes, but I'd be pretty comfortable with what I was doing. It may be a new area. It would be new coworkers. So in that respect, but it's still, I know exactly kind of what I'm getting into for the most part. The weather is still there. That's the main deal. But it's a change in industry. It's a change in structure. It's a change in pace overall. And so I'm excited because it kind of makes me a little nervous. Yeah. And that's how I think I knew it was the right change for me because I was a little nervous, but there was also, it wasn't like, oh, that sounds horrible. I was a little nervous, but also very excited. So
that's awesome. I know that about you. You do thrive when you're challenged and have different things going on. So that nervousness is exciting. All right. So is there anything like that you'd like to say? Anything else you'd like to say to viewers or our listeners before we sign off on this podcast?
Yeah, and maybe this is where I'll get a little bit sappy and I'll try to keep it kind of brief. But when I think about the viewers here, they are so kind, welcoming, very they're passionate, I think overall is what I would say, because they're passionate about their families, they're passionate about where they live. For a lot of people, this is where they grew up. Um, they're passionate about protecting the cultures of this city and this area. And that's something that was evident right away. And I don't know that I'm going to live somewhere like this again. People always say San Antonio is like a big small town.
It
I
is.
think that's a great way to describe it. It has such a different feel. I grew up in the Houston area. I lived in Lubbock. I've lived in Mississippi, Abilene. Nowhere's ever felt quite like San Antonio. It's such a unique place. I think because culture is so deeply embedded in so much of what happens here and how people live their lives. And so I just want to thank people for sharing some of that with me. Just as a local meteorologist, people, my first fiesta out there, people were just like, oh, confetti egg, here's a
Yeah.
medal. Like, just, so welcoming, and just wanted to bring you into it right away. I want to thank people for trusting our weather team and me when it came to the winter storm, when it came to other types of bad weather. That meant a lot. And we always heard from our viewers, and
Mhm.
and that was nice. They were always really appreciative, and we heard from them and felt like I had a relationship with them. So that was nice. And I know that's probably not going to be the case everywhere. So we're really lucky here. And the last thing, and this is where I would potentially get choked up, but I'm going to try not to. My cat Theo, 20-pound Theo, when I brought him here, he didn't have any health issues, but shortly after we arrived, he started having these issues, everything from like his bladder to his kidneys. And I didn't, like, long story short, over the course of a few months, like, I had racked up all this money and vet bills, and like nobody really knew what was wrong. He was still having the same problems. And I, like, in desperation, posted on my work Facebook page, and I was like, can anybody tell me where to go? Does anybody have any advice? Does this happen to anyone else's cat? And it felt so silly.
Mm.
But the audience and our viewers, like, they got me in touch with the right people. And like, my cat is totally fixed.
Mm.
He's in great health. Like, the vet
Yeah.
is like, he's going to live until he's 18
Nice.
at this point. And if I hadn't had our audience like point me in the right direction and be so helpful, and everybody always wants to know, how's Theo, I don't know that I don't know what we would have done. And it seems kind of trivial
No,
because
it's not.
it is a cat, but he was all I had at
Mhm.
one point. It was just me and him toughing it out for a while in the
Yeah.
in the TV biz. So I will always be so thankful to our audience here and our viewers for helping me through that time. I don't think they realized how challenging it was. And it's been great. And
Yeah.
thanks to the podcast listeners, you guys really rallied around us and you
Yes, you
supported us.
did.
And you always, chimed in and asked great questions. So thanks for all the support there too. And I'm not going away. I'll still
No.
be active on my social media accounts. That's going to be a big part of my next job. So I'll still be out there on social media land. And
Yes, you will. And I
yeah.
love what you said. Our community really is wonderful, and it's just great to be a part of it. And Katie, when I think about you, there's one word for me, and it is strength. Okay, you are very strong. Like, you are incredibly smart, incredibly capable, and you're a strong defender of your community and the people that you care for. And I have felt that personally. I mean, was a time when we were out and about and somebody got really like frisky with me, and Katie literally stepped in between us and was like, you need to leave. And I was like, whoa. So I know without a doubt that you are going to do an amazing job up in Dallas, because you're going to take that strength with you, and Theo and your husband, and it's going to be a good experience for you. And I'm going to miss you a lot. We're going to miss you a lot in San Antonio, but I know that you're going to do a phenomenal job.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for this episode, kind of letting me do a little bow, even though I hate the attention. Seems like counterintuitive, but like I hate the attention. You know, like, oh, you're on TV. Yeah, but but thank you. It means a lot to me. Sarah's been such a good coworker and now friend, and I'm glad that we get to stay friends.
Me too. And we will continue this podcast. It'll sound a little different, but it's gonna still be here, whatever the weather.
Some great guests. Free up this seat. Get some guests rolling on in here. Yeah, and now you can Zoom with peeps.
We can Zoom. We can invite people in. It's gonna be awesome.
It is gonna be great. So you guys keep on supporting, and thank you again.
And remember, one last time.
Whether the weather, whatever the weather.
Give Katie a hug.
Aww, thank you.